Welcome. Today we begin our descent into the robust world of space. Our first spaceman is a man named Bruce Rockwell, who is a cleaner custodial savant than a germaphobe infected with the OCD virus. However, his cleaning days were over before they even began thanks to a dirty alien gun, like an illegal immigrant discovering the benefits of crime. The janitor quickly realized that a wizard was behind the controversial free guns tomfoolery. Then another person appeared in the room with Bruce, though they suddenly vanished. Shortly thereafter, the voices in Bruce's head began to question his open-mindedness.
So, you ready?
For what?
Adventure.
I guess so, but I'm a virgin. The next thing he did was steal a silenced pistol from a guy who was staring at a wall. He tried to take a weapon from another oblivious bugger, but wound up grabbing the wrong thing and almost ruining his life, like mistaking a nice set of breasts for a pair of large stress balls. Fortunately, the bugman realized he was a moth that should not be playing with big human guns, so the dangerous firearm was dropped for Bruce. Then Bruce acquired a force of coded nature, the pulse rifle. Its unlimited charge along with its kill and stun settings is all a person needs in an overpowered weapon. As you can see, the fine piece of hardware attracted covetous motherfuckers to our lottery winner over here. Oh, the gun even has a destroy mode, but he was too nervous to try it out. He then noticed that the HOP line was looking like adult-sized afterbirth, so you already know that Bruce's chances of survival were slimmer than walking across a bridge made out of skin and bones. Plus, the wizard was blowing smoke out of everybody's ass by tricking them into thinking they had teleportation powers in order to provide a distractingly good time. Not long after that, Bruce had another handsy admirer that was after his pulse rifle. He somehow got yet another weapon out of this firefight, and even though it was a wee little disabler, it's always important to add to your arsenal. Also, take note of Bruce standing his ground against those who think that their feet are too good for the floor. Actually, the more noteworthy takeaway from this ordeal is the fact that he became a fish person. Bruce was pissed to the gills about his fishy situation, so he shot other fishes contained in the same barrel of displeasure as him. Afterwards, he almost lost his multi-purpose weapon due to someone being too flashy, like letting your friend borrow your pistol for hard-body selfies, which eventually triggers a robbery aimed at stealing your gun. Then everyone gathered around to kill the wizard, or so they thought since their shift continued even after his death, and everybody knows that once the bad guys are dead, the workday is over. Later on, a glorified Boy Scout thought Bruce was an evildoer, and he began trying to disable him. However, Bruce denied the little fundraising minion their arrest badge by exposing him to deadly lasers, like planetariums being used as death camps for the epileptic. Nonetheless, he was a stand-up guy that protected those who were not fortunate enough to get a gun on Magic Day. His fight didn't end there, because a spearman from the chemistry tribe also wanted a demonstration of the pulse rifle. Oh, and Officer Beepsky was destroyed in the crossfire, but who really cares about that? Bruce was already a gun-toting fish. What more could the wizard do to him, he thought. Sadly though, he was hit with the worst curse imaginable. Permanent cat ears and a fake yet real tail. Then his degeneracy reached new lows when he was magically gifted a rifle. Also, the chat box in his head told him he was now a survivalist, which meant he could kill whoever he wanted as long as it involved stealing guns. Of course, evidence of guns being on the victims did not need to be provided since he would have stolen them anyways. Speaking of which, this motherfucker now has 2 pulse rifles. This prompted a montage accompanied by DMX ad-libs that are mixed together in a way that will make you hate yourself. Yeah! Is exactly how Bruce felt when he failed even while dual-wielding pulse rifles. However, he was able to take a last stand with his old alien gun that he still had from his hood rat days. That really didn't matter though, because all he had left was that silenced pistol, and he was no James Bond, so he wasn't able to sneak away from death this time. Now let's take a look at an alternate reality where Bruce studied hard and became a bartender instead of a janitor that morphed into a catfish. The first thing the bartender did was give one of his patrons the never-ending back-to-back shots of vodka special, because he wanted to see what alcohol poisoning looked like in person. The external view of alcohol poisoning just looks like an unavoidable nap, but I bet that internal liver view is lit. Then out of nowhere, a masked man swooped in and began whooping Bruce's ass. Visually it may not look like much, but he was really getting the shit kicked out of him. The mugger demanded Bruce's shotgun.
Shotgun, boy!
So he retaliated with the shotgun, 2 bottles of whiskey, and cable restraints to bring down this bitch like a backwoods hillbilly rapist. Bruce was living the American dream, beating the shit out of a terrorist while a fine Cuban cigar rests in his mouth solely for the bad boy aesthetic. He then played some strip solitaire with his new friend. Sadly though, Bruce had to send his buddy to a new home. Too bad he didn't make it there alive like shipping your pet through United Airlines. The bar was more chaotic than if the exam to become a lawyer was a battle royale featuring bloodthirsty law students. Bruce then threw his skull in the ring since he was not wearing a hat and he was sure not giving up his beautiful hair. However, he should have gave up before even trying because his attacker single-handedly put both of the toolbox killers to shame with his metal onslaught. We all know death caused by blunt trauma delivered from a toolbox is a very common workplace accident, so Bruce's death was nothing to worry about. The reason being because he got turned into a naked clone like an Asian porn star. Oh, and the letter R was now above his head, which meant he could do whatever he wanted, so he decided to become a dirty cop. Also, Bruce outlived his murderer, if that makes any sense. Remember, I said whatever he wanted. Even if that included dumb shit such as this. Any amount of pain can be dealt, and it would still be worth it as long as you get a fire axe out of it in the end. His outfit and weapon of choice were both picked in a sad attempt to revive Axe Cop, because the former writer of that show was tired of ghostwriting my videos. Bruce then treated a tied up doctor like a door with a knob that was too hot to touch, though the heat was catching up to Bruce and his boiling point would soon be met. At least he was able to hack off one last limb before departing into the fiery depths of space. Next, we move on to Goon Station. Here we have our protagonist that wishes he was an antagonist, however he is simply just a chef named Quentin Jackwright that spawned in the barracks of the service industry, among other wage slaves who would rather die than to ever have a customer be wrong. His day was off to a great start since he found some rum in a shrub, because goons' bushes have whatever your heart desires, as long as it's a random item that pops out after a lot of bush shaking. Then, Quentin took the fun out of hunting by pressing a button that made meat appear out of nowhere, similar to how fake beef is produced. He also had to take care of the Disney copyright problem in order to prevent a shutdown. This man was a chef, exterminator, and now soon to be red-blooded cannibal. Of course though, he was interrupted by puking and shooting, like trying to relax at a death-defying house party. The fight poured into the back room as the bartender and vegan clown duked it out. Quentin had to jump in since a member of the customer service gang was involved. All of this mayhem caused the kitchen to turn into a prison shower due to all the stabbing and slipping going on. This whole situation really stressed Quentin out, so he reached into his bag and grabbed his only inheritance, which was an old pill bottle like he had shitty parents. He then popped one of his medicine capsules. This one in particular was called Prism Fire. Then Quentin noticed a goddamn sword on the floor. However, he understood now that size does not matter because this machete-sized bread knife was weaker than the scalpel that really wants to be a kitchen knife. He left the galley and began stomping through the swampy halls of this titanic submarine. He then indulged in his slime crush, like me masturbating to my first love, the Nickelodeon green bukkake. This drug was sure nostalgic, because it gave him that glue-sniffing laced with crayons type of high. Next, he dropped some mountain sushi. Now all he had left was a protein pill called Wizard Lasagna, and the heartwarming grandma's wave that has been stripping the nation's youth of its innocence. He wasn't greedy, so he shared his grandma with this neglected grandchild, but the leftover Wizard Lasagna went straight to Quentin's dome. Due to all the pill popping, his only vision was chasing a high until the end of time. Actually, Quentin tripped so hard he went back in time and became a detective named Buck Butler. His backstory was more convoluted than the lie you tell your girlfriend after she finds your back covered in scratch marks. Yet, his roleplay preferences were narrowed down to a simple sentence that explains he likes it rough. Buck was reckless as a safe driver since he played by the books, because he did not have time for any fantasy homebrewed bullshit. His head was covered in luscious He-Man hair, and their skin tone was the same beyond pale grayish color that players of War Station tend to develop. They wore the uniform of the 1950s paparazzi, since he was a mere Hollywood detective with an alien prop tail made out of shredded tires and held together by a movie franchise. He arrived at an elevator. In front of him stood a squirrel that thought they could just put on a winter coat and hat, then boom, they are humanish. Of course that does not matter here in this deprived gutter where you can be whatever you want to be, ranging from a veterinarian that is a dog in a wig to a Buck Butler type build.
Someone's been assaulted via screwdriver.
Oh, something is actually happening. What a sudden change of pace. Then Detective Butler brought back the results of some blood work given by this midget rabbit over here. Bad news.
This blood is infected with AIDS.
I don't think that's accurate.
I have AIDS?
Yes, hate to break it to you.
I think the detective's having a laugh, Luna.
I'm not. AIDS is nothing to laugh about.
They injected me with something and beat me.
Damn, someone infected this sucker Eazy-E style. Later on, Buck walked into the Mos Eisley Cantina with its regular crowd of actors in alien costumes replaced by creeps pretending to be transgender talking animals. These anthropomorphic monstrosities stared at each other with their hungry eyes, just waiting for consent to swallow each other. Buck was getting bored until he stumbled upon some sleeping roadkill. Then Officer Rodent ran up on him, so he had no other choice but to commit reverse reproduction by shoving this unconscious wolf inside the squirrel man's nuts, since that is something you can do on this very serious station. Buck Butler shoves the wolf in the guy's small balls. Is that what you wanted, you freak? Blinks, letting out a gasp. What? Would slightly blush. Why would you do that? I don't know. Seemed cool. Personally, I don't think I would have that kind of flirty schoolgirl reaction if someone forced me to swallow an entire person into my balls, but to each their own, I guess. Buck wanted to pop his Vord cherry. Come on, don't be a nut. Blinks. I'm not food. Do you want me to shove more people into your balls? Lushing. No. What the fuck? I need to eat you. I have to get rid of you. Just let it happen. Ooh. Why? It will be hot. What did I do? You a sick boy. You are fucked. This individual is more pathetic than people who edit their comments to thank everyone for all the likes it received.
I'm in the detective. No way. That would be homosexual. I am straight, I tell ya. Oh, are you fucking serious? Do you need me to get you out? No. I can just visit a bathroom. I tried preventing him from eating someone and shoved them into my organs, and then he handcuffed me. Oh my god! Buck, I will strangle you. Cough up the detective.
That chewing out did not stop his eating spree, because the station's community is so submissive you could probably take over the whole joint just by eating everyone. As long as you're role-playing, then they will be into it. Though Buck was not the man-woman for the job since he didn't have the stomach for it, which is why he ejected the 2 entrees out of his food box. After making himself puke, he felt good about his body, therefore he went for a swim. Nevertheless, you can't trust the station's water, so he wore a condom over his entire body for total protection. He just wanted to go back to eating normal food, but those who were in charge did not agree with his new lifestyle choice.
Let's have a chat about your behavior, cause it is obvious to a whole lot of people you're not here to play seriously.
I just want to get eaten. Is that a problem?
How you go about it is, I'm looking at your OOC notes, and you go on a tirade about how Buck is not your average guy. OOC notes are meant for what kinks you're into, and also what kinks you're not into.
Oh, my bad. I thought that was my flavor text.
Your flavor text is also in first person, containing your character's likes. They like horses. How do people get that just by looking at you? You also enjoy a good cold one with the boys.
I'm sorry, if this is what I like, I'll redo my character. Unfortunately, Buck never did that, because he understood that they wanted nothing to do with him, like curse dropping me from their network after my first tour of War Station. I'm not food. I'm not food. Why does that get me? I'm not food. Fuck.
Freedom.